We are live. We're back here on Chicago Hill. And you talk about a great day, Malika. Today, Fridays are the day that we listen to the young people.
Yes.
And today is a fantastic day because we're going to be listening to some young people from the University of Illinois, one of the systems. I think they're from UIC. All of them are UIC students. And you talk about being able to learn how to, me as a state legislator, how to govern and to get things right for students. We're going to learn today. And you, as a professional in the entertainment and in the what is it? I want to call it the journalism,
Media.
Media. So we could really listen to the young people here. And so in the past, we've had some teenagers. Now we have some adults here that's already doing well in the community and leading the way. So what you think, Malika, what we got today?
I love Fridays because we listen and we're listeners. I love listening to the young people because they have been dropping nuggets for us older people to pay attention and open our eyes and giving a whole new perspective. So like you said, we've been talking to a lot of the high school students who have been doing amazing things. So now we've got these UIC students who are about to take off into the world. I mean, they're on the launching pad ready to do it. So I can't wait to hear what they got going on. We'll start with Melody Slaughter here. She's third year public policy. That's a tongue twister. Public policy. See, Shook agrees with me. Yes, it is a tongue twister. She is co-president of UIC Student Advocacy Coalition, and she's the vice president of Sisters. So this girl is running stuff already, and she hasn't even graduated yet. So please welcome Melody Slaughter, and then she's going to invite our other amazing guests. I've read all their bios.
Yeah.
These are some badass people, and they haven't even graduated and got out into the world yet. I have a great deal of respect for them already.
I do too. I mean, we had a meeting as the Probe's chair. I'm the Probe's chair, higher ed, in the house, and Ms. Slaughter arranged a meeting, and we had many of the students on, and they, what's important about these young people, these students, they understand government. They came straight to the chair of higher ed at Probst and said, we want change, we need things to happen, and they understand that you got to work with government, and you can't just sit back. So I guess we go to the vice president.
Oh yes, Melody Slaughter.
Thank you. So I would just like to state that, one, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And the meeting that we did previously have with Rep. Ford wasn't necessarily through my own, actions, even though I did take leadership in that meeting. We're very grateful to the U of I system and the Office of Government Relations for being able to arrange these different meetings. So students like myself or all of us can get, these kinds of experiences and opportunities to interact with our government and to actually learn and get this kind of knowledge. And one of the things, Rep. Ford, if you recall, that we did kind of talk about there was the importance of mental health, specifically in higher education, even though it can really be applied at all levels, just because it still is, unfortunately, a stigma. But I think that's quickly changing, I think, with the revelations that the pandemic has kind of given us. Something that I did bring up in that meeting was how my experience as a Black woman with a disability, how it shaped the experience that I was going to have in college. Unfortunately, we can't just leave our identities at the door when we walk in the school or when we walk onto campus. Those identity, those cultural values, they come with us. And I had already had a lot of trauma that I was coming into the school with. And unfortunately, the school just didn't have the resources available for me, at the counseling center, to encourage me to break out of those stigmas that I had collected from my historical background. So it was very difficult, and that's that's been one of my main motivators in policy work recently. I've worked with Young Invincibles, trying to put together, some mental health research and initiatives, and they're doing really, really great work right now. But that also extends, of course, to, my conversations that I've been having with legislators, and trying to get them to see not only that mental health is important for everyone, but it especially affects those from minority backgrounds differently. And it directly relates to, students' persistence, students' academic success, students' retention rates, which of course is going to be a direct reflection on the investment in the economy that we see and the kind of growth that we see. So investing in students' mental health and other things that we brought up in that meeting were bridge programs. I don't necessarily think that those two things are isolated. I've seen through my research evidence of some schools that actually target minority populations with cultural centers. For instance, UIC has those or something similar to them. And they also place those given resources within those cultural centers. And that might also include like counselors or psychologists. So that they kind of bridge that gap, through those programs. And that's something else that UIC, I know, especially needs more funding for, especially because we are, a minority serving institution. So UIC is attempting to do this kind of fundamental work. But unfortunately, we live in a capitalist society, so we need dollars to make it work. As far as what I can say about, helping to keep, I want to say, my community pushing for, the Black community, what should be a priority for us is, I bring this up very, very often. All of us need to advocate for reparations. We need to have the same kind of spirit that we had during the civil rights era and come together for that specific cause, because like I said, money, unfortunately, at this point makes the world go round. And Black people in America, especially Black Americans, are kind of losing this battle on the totem pole as far as getting access to the resources that we need, which includes mental health, because we don't have the dollars or the money for it. Money will afford you a lot of opportunities and open a lot of doors. And I'm speaking to you as a very privileged Black American woman, because I'm, kind of atypically, I come from a two-parent household, which growing up in my community was gonna be a surprise. A lot of my peers that I went to high school with, that I grew up with, they came from single-parent households, and I think I'm living proof of the fact that having both a mom and a dad in the house does really make a significant impact.
Yeah.
And
Are you first generation?
So I'm not first generation, fortunately. I would say my brother is more so the first gen person on our side, at least from my dad's side. However, we were still very lucky to have our mom graduate from school. Kind of have that privilege and that drive for education in her. But even that, growing up, she would tell us stories about how, I'm going to say, toxic that drive, how toxically that drive was instilled in her from her mother. Her mother will always tell her, get an education, you don't need anyone. But also because of the cultural stigma in the Black community, there was also this, how do I put it?
Hold it right there. We're gonna come back to you, but who's next?
Well, yeah, I had a question for with the privilege. Like, is it considered privilege to have both your parents now, or is that should be expected, or is that?
It depends on the comparison that you're making. So, unfortunately, in the Black community, I'm making the comparison to the overall Black community. However, if we're comparing it to the standard of white America, then no, it's not privilege at all. It's the standard.
Okay. I've never heard that before. Okay. All right.
Jackie, if you would like to go next, my fellow co-president.
Yes, so hello again. Kind of like how Melody mentioned, I'm very thankful for the opportunity. And just like a little bit about me, I am a first generation student. I am a third year student also at the University of Illinois in Chicago. I am co-president of Student Advocacy Coalition on the e-board for Political Science Student Union, and I'm a president of a cultural sorority. But yeah, I just did kind of want to have a conversation in this, and kind of following what Melody, I'm also been talking to representatives, and I've always had the same ask kind of to support for MAP grants, just because MAP grants is something that needs to get invested in. Illinois' economy is not the best, and we kind of all know that, there are families moving out because students are going out and parents kind of follow them, or the parents get them through CPS or through whatever high school or university that they go to, and then they just leave because taxes are going up. And the way to prevent taxes from going up is investing in students so that students can remain in Illinois and continue to thrive off of that, get more jobs, make more profit off of that. If there's not an investment in the students right now, and if there's not an investment in retaining students in Illinois, then it's just not going to work. So that is something that I've always been asking, and that's something that I think needs to get more attention to it. Just because, like I mentioned, I know so many students were just like, I'm not going to stay in Illinois. It's expensive. I'd rather go out of state where taxes are cheaper. They get paid more. You've seen the taxes in Illinois recently?
Man, you rather go out of state. We got to fix that, but go ahead.
So yeah, and then people are just like, why am I going to stay in Illinois if, taxes, this and that, the minimum wage is not the best either, comparing it to the taxes rate that it keeps going up. And if other schools are offering in-state tuition to them, or offering them more scholarships than their own like Illinois system, it's just easier to go out. I was like fortunate enough to get, a lot of scholarships, and that's how I've been able to afford it. And even then, I have to work 2-3 jobs sometimes to be able to continue my education, continue paying for transportation to go to school, and help out my family. Like, again, I did mention I'm a first gen, I'm new at this. It's hard, but it's definitely something that I want to do. But I know that there's not that many people that can be in my power to be able to focus on both school and work at the same time to be able to continue to thrive. So again, that's something that I know is super interesting, and I think that needs to get more attention to, invest in students so that Illinois itself can keep progressing and keep being better. But yeah.
Oh, Rep Ford, I think you need to meet with her.
I met with Jackie. That's good. But I think that we gotta. She said she's gonna have to leave the state. You're right. We need to meet again because she's got to stay. You work how many jobs?
I work 2, sometimes 3, depending on the season and how much I can get. I kind of, when I'm not at school, I'm working.
And you go to school full time.
I am a full-time student, and I also have to be, like involved on campus to be able to build up my resume, because again, these jobs that I work are just to get money and not really for my future. So I kind of have to focus on like also building up that resume so that I am sellable to jobs later in Illinois.
No, I mean,
I don't know how you do it.
I don't either. I mean, but she's a strong person.
Yes.
And we need more people just like you, Jackie. Thank you.
That's ambition. That's drive.
Who's next?
Shook.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately, I'm next. You cannot top these 2 wonderful ladies. But I guess, you know what? It's kind of like how you had Beyonce, and then later on you had, who was it? Either Katy Perry or Bruno Mars, just to reset the bar. Back in this is a suitable thing. So, hi. But yeah, so I am Shukri. I am in the I went to UIC class of 2018 for history and minor in biological sciences and global Asian studies. And then I'm currently about to wrap up the pharmacy program, thank God, in about 2 months. My community work back then was more on representation, and my goal right now is more of promoting preventative care. Like what Melody mentioned, it's great to have counseling in the centers, and not just oh man, or like instead of like trying to be reactive, it's more of preventative. And if a student needs to get help, they're not going to be on a wait list, and or like okay, let's go take you outside, and you're going to go pay a $20 copay as a student, and that's there's just so many barriers involved just to get healthcare. So I guess that's one of my main goals. That and side tangent on the whole American diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. So overall, those are my goals, and to promote legislation in proactive care. And I'm gonna try to reduce this as much as possible because we have a lot more wonderful people to hear from.
Thank you for that, Shook. And yes, we need your work in the medical field because I have been having a heck of a time finding good health care.
You know,
Yeah, I tell you.
I always mention, I'm so sorry. So hopefully, like right now, I'm gonna be focused on community work, and my two future goals would be working on workers' rights in the hospital, like in the healthcare field, to make sure they have high quality work while also making sure they're not burnt out. That could affect the patient's outcomes. And two is just ideally universal or accessible healthcare for everyone.
Yeah, Malika, you know why it's so important that he gets in the medical profession. We need to get more minorities and women in the profession because you need more people to be, I would say, aware, culturally aware. I mean, and we do struggle with biases in the profession.
Yes.
And let's see who's next.
Report, if I may follow up with that real quick.
Yes.
Honest, actually, not a hot take. I'm Arab American, so there's too many of me in there. But I think my goal would be basically, if I see someone that's underrepresented in the field, to bring them in or encourage them or mentor them. So there's enough of me out there.
Well, I feel that you're culturally competent, and that's what's important. You know, being culturally competent. No one. I mean, we can. I don't discriminate and don't want to discriminate. We need everyone in America to enjoy all that America has to offer. But I just ask that we understand that America is for everyone, and that we should all be able to get along and know one another. You know, Malika and I and many people in Illinois, we've been working on what you call accurate American history so that people understand one another. But there's someone that hasn't had a word yet. And I think that we need to open it up to Sonata.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Sonata Velitis. I am a graduate student at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign in the Nuclear, Plasma, and Radiological Engineering Department.
Oh, well, excuse us.
I have no idea what's going on. So it's okay.
Well, you know, the most important thing is, I mean, you heard your peers here. You graduated. When did you graduate? You're a graduate student.
Yeah. So I got my bachelor's in 2018.
Yeah. So you have such great experience, and the students that spoke before you, beside Itis, you know, you could tell them the challenges that you face going through the process, and how to prevent going into a lot of debt while in college. You know, we heard Jackie, she's got 3 jobs and she's got to have a full-time
I don't know how she doing
schedule for the university. You know, give us some advice.
My advice is that I got really lucky and I was able to pay. So I went to school in Florida. They have something called the Bright Futures program. And the year I graduated, they stepped it up to cover 100% of in-state tuition at any university in the state for any student who gets above a certain GPA in high school and like a certain number of community service hours. So I got that and several other scholarships that covered half the cost. And then my parents had saved enough to cover the other half of the cost. So I could only focus on school and extracurriculars and research. And like, I didn't have extra jobs I needed to do to pay for those things. So like, it's not that I did anything to
you didn't fall lazy to your privilege, and that's good. Many people have these privileges and they don't take advantage of them. And now you're in a master's program, and I can't even say what the program is, It's something fancy. Say it again.
Nuclear, plasma, and radiological engineering.
Whew. So
It's like really long because the department has 3 branches, and one is nuclear, one is plasma, one is radiological.
Oh.
I'm in, yeah, and I'm in plasma physics, computational plasma physics, but I'm not so interested in plasma physics. So my interest is machine learning, kind of applied to like physics simulations.
you know,
And
yeah. And I would tell you guys, I was reading something the other day and it talked about, we're going to go to Melody's point about mental health. And it talked about how in the past 20 years, the number of college students with clinical depression and suicide tendencies has tripled. And approximately 1.6 million students sought counseling assistance last year. That's a lot of stress on college students based on what we heard here today. And we are pushing, because of these students here, $19 million to go to our public universities. And hopefully we could get that appropriated in this year's budget, because it's going to not only provide telehealth for students, and we know that the UIC systems, they struggle with you guys being able to walk into a place for behavior and mental health support. So we need to make it more ready. And Malika, what's amazing about this mental health challenge that students are having on campus is there was a stigma at one time with people going to see a doctor or a therapist. Mm-hmm. Not anymore. These students are asking for them and everyone else to have access to behavior and mental health support on the campus.
I think everybody should have a therapist.
Yeah.
Just like you have a regular physician, because, you need someone to do a little surgery on the soul, as well as tend to your physical, because it's so much. And I mean, they're in college, and I'm looking at Jackie, I'm looking at Melly, I'm looking at Shook, I'm looking at them, and I'm exhausted. I'm just looking at all that they have to do, and they haven't even gotten out into the world. But it's like, I'm so proud of them. I don't even know them personally, but I'm so proud of them, and that they're recognizing we need this. We need some mental health, because we need to be poured into, so that when we graduate, we can pour back out and be healthy individuals. Mental health is so, so important. And I'm here in Evanston in Northwestern, and you hear suicides up here. It's not uncommon. And I often wonder, I wonder what was going through their mind, because on the outside looking in, you think a Northwestern student, they got it made in the shade when they graduate, like what's really going on. So I would love to hear, what do you all think would take a student to that point? Because so many people would love to go to college, and they can't figure out how to make that happen. They don't have the support to go. So they look at you all like in envy, they admire. And then so when you get depressed, can you explain that to those who are looking up to you?
Yeah, we'll go with the Vice President Slaughter, and then you could call on your next, because you also put questions in the chat that we need to address, why the stigma was there. And go ahead, Slaughter.
So stigma, in my personal opinion, it stems from a lack of knowledge, and unfortunately, our parents didn't have access to that knowledge that we have nowadays. We're very thankful for all the research that has come out, or that continues to come out, pertaining to mental health. But even something that we can talk about now that's also different from when our parents may have gone to college, or when when the older generation may have gone to college, is the cost of college. The cost of college has skyrocketed. It is truly terrible to be a young person in that sense in this day and age, compared to how I hear about what prices were like when my mom went to college, for instance. And I don't know if Jackie, if you would like to chime in on this, and maybe Shukri after that, and Sonata. But yeah, that's what I think about it.
That's great. We have 6 minutes left. Let's go, Jackie.
The way I think about it, sometimes it's too much pressure. Like I know for like personally me speaking, like I am a first gen. I am the one that like my siblings look up to. I'm the middle of 5 children. But even then, like both of my siblings have kind of struggled and like not continued their education because of that. So again, all that pressure is being like you have to be the first, you're the first, like you can't fail. If you fail, then like it kind of like steers like the train like from success as opposed to like if you finish that gives people and your family more like I'm also one of the oldest cousins, so like all of my cousins like looking at me, and it's just like I can see how that can be a lot for a lot of people. I actually really thankful I have a really strong support system. Like I said, I'm in a sorority, I'm in like all these organizations, I meet a lot of people, and I'm also open to talking and meeting a lot more people, and people support me, and I feel like that really like helps me out. And if I didn't have that, I definitely like I would struggle so much to be able to continue to like go to work, go to school, go to my other job, go back to school, do homework, do this and do that. So I definitely like see how much like mental health has such a huge impact on it. And like I mentioned in the chat, UIC mental health, like the free counseling that they offer, there's like a 3-month wait there.
Really?
I've tried it, and it's like the wait is ridiculous. Like, and I like it is a good thing because like once you get on that wait list, like eventually you'll get to it, but sometimes that eventually could be too late for some people, So it's just something that needs to really be reevaluated and re-looked at to be able to make that system more effective.
Well, that's something. We have 2 minutes to go. Itis?
Yes, indeed. Oh man. I guess I appreciated it when I finally got this. It was like March to summertime. That's how long it took. About May-ish. So yeah, that is definitely a legit problem. And I think after you become the first, I think the next step would be to see where it goes, and the definition of what they want you to be. You could shake it up and become a whole other, I guess, for lack of better words, I can think of it with 2 minutes left, but persona. And it's like the next level, the next level, the next level. So that's why I chose history, and I wanted to make sure it's like we could incorporate the social aspect to it and normalize conversations that are not just, oh, how much could that blood pressure be lowered with one drug? It's like, one, could you even afford the drug? And two, what's the history behind that drug being made? Was it ethical, and et cetera? And I could go on hours for that. So I'm gonna.
Well, let's go to Sonata, and then we're gonna close with you guys giving us some advice for younger people that's trying to go to college, what they should prepare for as high school seniors and juniors. And that would be great. Let's go, Sonata.
I would like to second that counseling resources for students are extremely important. UIUC has services offered through Healthiest You, which offer like remote therapy that's extremely useful and helpful, like free copay. What else do I want to say? In terms of what drives people who have it made to suicide, I would say like look at rape culture and gaslighting and abusive relationships, and like how teachers and everyone else kind of interacts with people, because it can do a lot.
In the 5 seconds, what is gaslighting?
Convincing someone that something that you both just saw happened didn't actually happen, and you're crazy.
Okay, let's go on our speed round. Go ahead, Slaughter.
Don't limit yourself. So keep your grades up, but also if it's too expensive, look at trade schools.
Trade schools.
Ask questions and don't assume that people won't help you.
Okay, I got this one. Don't be afraid to explore, because the best things I've learned were accidentally just going out there. The STEM classes they're essential, but man, I'm happy when I was like, you know what the heck? I got 2 minutes to spare. Let me go somewhere else. I learned amazing lessons and had made amazing networking stories.
Very good. That's one. And
Sonata?
I can't think of any advice. I'm sorry.
all right, that's
but believe in
good.
yourself.
You gave a lot of good advice. And this has been another episode of Chicago Hill with some fantastic students. Malika, take us away.
Hey, I think I already told you, Rep Ford. I think the first 4 years of college should be free. And I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. This has been Chicago Hill. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.